How's it going, my dudes? This video's brought to you by Squarespace today.
A franchise that has run for as long as this one is bound to retread on soil that's been explored before. So how many times did it actually pay off? There are quite obvious examples that you are shouting at the screen right now and no one could blame you. Star Trek has managed to perfect the art of sequel more than once. Like any franchise, it hasn't always done the original justice. That will become the focus of its own list in the future. For now, sequels are a dish best served cold, and it is very cold in space, or wherever it is you're commuting to as you watch this. Either way, let's dig in. I'm Sean Ferrick for TrekCulture, and here are the 10 greatest sequels in Star Trek. Number 10. To the Death. Star Trek Deep Space Nine forged its own look and feel, drawing from the original and animated series as well as the Next Generation. For the 4th season episode To the Death, the show decided to pitch a sequel to Contagion, while also deepening the lore around the Dominion. The best sequels add to what is already known. In this case, To the Death confirms what we already knew about the Iconians, but adds greater scope, now revealing that they had travelled as far as the Gamma Quadrant. The episode kicks into gear with an assault on the station, one with fairly serious repercussions. In this sequel to the Next Generation episode, we learned that the Jem'Hadar, an exclusively Deep Space Nine villain at that point, were capable of breaking from their established beliefs and gods. We learned that the Vorta were something of an administrative class within the Dominion, and we learned that Clarence Williams III does not like to be toyed with. The episode may simply use the Iconians as the catalyst, but both stories combine to make one of the strongest episodes of the show's 4th year. Number 9. Mudd. As iconic a character as Harcourt Fenton Mudd is, Mudd's women has not aged well. Roger C. Carmel's performance as Mudd is the saving grace, at least offering a fun, cheeky trickster to the Star Trek roster of the day. While there are several sequels and prequels, thanks to Rainn Wilson, to choose from, it is the first sequel that truly stands out. Mudd serves a delicious justice to the conman, now exalted on his throne of androids. As desperate as he was to be away from his beloved Stella, he has several copies of her constructed by his new friends. These versions have a crucial element. They will go silent on his command, quite unlike the real thing. The final reveal of those new copies, with no such command request, is a fun moment to see him receive his comeuppance. This was not a man we particularly wished doom on, merely a suitable level of consternation, and the look on his face says it all. His story may have evolved since then, but this remains our favourite Harry Mudd moment. Number 8. Life Itself. Life Itself is an outlier on this list. It is a sequel to The Chase, but also carries the burden of wrapping up Star Trek Discovery as a whole. In both, it largely succeeds. By adding a further mystery within a mystery to the saga of the progenitors, it manages to widen the scope of the story even further than we had previously assumed. The revelation that the progenitors were not the original creators of the technology that Starfleet, the Breen, Maul, and Locke were after was a stunning game changer, as almost 30 years had passed in the real world before this new twist. It also helped to continue that grand tradition of Discovery, knowing that not every riddle can be answered. The episode further shocked audiences by revealing itself to be a sequel of sorts to the Temporal Wars arc in Star Trek Enterprise, with David Cronenberg's Agent Daniels' 11th hour reveal linking both shows. It was a deeply satisfying finale, even if there are yet more mysteries out there for us to learn. Number 7. The Last Generation. The finale of Star Trek Picard had a tall ask when it came to tackling, once again, the story of Picard and the Borg. For many in the audience, First Contact had resolved things quite nicely, but then the first season of Picard gave us a man who wasn't quite over his trauma just yet. The double decision to bring back the Borg and the Enterprise D herself was a winner here. In The Last Generation, while the immediate threat would seem to be the rapidly assimilating youngsters of Starfleet killing all of those in their way, the true tale becomes one of generational trauma. Jack Crusher discovers the allure of being inside the collective, while we the audience see what it may have been like for Jean-Luc. While we can't see yet another visit to the collective after this resolution doing any favours for anyone, we feel that way because this finally feels like a closed chapter, elegantly captured by a seasoned cast who truly felt ready to put this behind them. Number 6. Yesteryear. Yesteryear is a crucial episode for audiences to understand exactly who and what Spock is. It is a sequel to The City on the Edge of Forever, even if it merely uses the presence of the Guardian of Forever that links the two. That said, not every sequel must pick up beat for beat on every aspect of the original. Yesteryear takes the idea of a sentient time machine, also known as Carl, though that would come later, and gives the audience a chance to explore Spock's childhood. It doesn't defang him, nor retcon any established lore. Mark Lenard returns as Sarek, further deepening the connection connection to the original series. While the animated series tends to vary in audience estimation, the stories, yesteryear especially, are among Star Trek's best. This episode manages, in 20 minutes, to show us what's happening with Carl, how Spock became who he is, and what an Aurelian actually looks like. Number 5. Redemption. There are many candidates for the best two-part story in The Next Generation, with The Best of Both Worlds, Chain of Command and Unification often edging their way to the top of the list. For your consideration though, let us look at Redemption and how it manages to serve as a sequel to Sins of the Father, Reunion and Yesterday's Enterprise. While the inclusion of Sela had been discussed almost to death here on TrekCulture, the episode is held in such regard because of its ability to marry so many of these storylines together. The Duras family arc sees a major resolution here, as following the events of the second episode, they would never again pose such a threat to Starfleet, bar that one unfortunate run-in with the Enterprise D. Gowron is installed as Chancellor, the Romulan collusion with the Duras family is revealed, Tasha Yar's sad fate comes full circle with her daughter's duplicity, and Worf gets that Guard of Honor, a fantastic payoff to so many loose threads. Number 4. Star Trek First Contact. Star Trek First Contact had many tasks to achieve when it hit theaters in 1996. It was the sequel to Star Trek Generations, the next chapter in the Next Generation saga, and had to tackle the Borg, at that time Star Trek's greatest enemy race. Jonathan Frakes directed a blinder of a flick, creating an entirely new world for the old cast to inhabit. The Enterprise D was resting on Veridian 3, giving the film's design team the opportunity to create a new ship. John Eves rose to the occasion with the glorious Enterprise E, still wasn't Worf's fault what happened to it, while audiences were treated to their first big screen battle with a Borg cube. First Contact's strengths don't simply lie in what it shows, but also in what we learn. Picard's journey is both heart-wrenching and frustrating as he deals with his trauma. Lily brings much-needed cold water to splash on proceedings, while the Borg Queen manages to become an iconic villain in her own right. All of this builds from The Best of Both Worlds, still one of the greatest stories in Trek, and easily amongst the very best television cliffhangers of all time. The line must be drawn here, and it points to a bloody strong sequel. Number 3. Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Star Trek II pulls double duties on this list. It is both a sequel to the motion picture and to Space Seed, though perhaps more directly to the latter. With Nicholas Meyer taking over the reins from Robert Wise, the franchise received a tone shift. Gone was the cerebral, elegiac explorations of the first film, replaced now with a more militaristic, no less beautiful feel. The Enterprise is depicted with both stock footage and new shots created for the battle with the Reliant. Ricardo Montalban returns to bring his own unique gravitas to proceedings, while the crew receive those new uniforms that I love so much. While Space Seed suited the tone of the original series well, ending on a hopeful note of possibility, this film suits the grungier feel of the films at the time. Perhaps grunge is a harsh description. Utilitarian may be the best. There is barely a hair out of place on the Federation ship, while Khan and crew represent abandon and chaos. The film manages to honor the story that came before, wrapping the motion picture's aesthetic in, and still creates something entirely new for audiences. Number 2. Regeneration. Star Trek Enterprise did something very cheeky in its second year. As a prequel series, it faced something of an uphill battle with the audience. Viewers were being introduced to items and, in some cases, characters that they were well acquainted with. How on earth could this show make things new again? With Regeneration, the series took what had admittedly become a stale villain at that point, and not only offered a sequel that was one of the all-timers, but twisted the prequel theme to fit the mold. The Borg simply should not have worked in Enterprise's setting, yet Regeneration succeeded in making them truly frightening again. Gone were the long discussions with the Queen or the dozens of NPC drones dotted around the room. Here was a small group born from the survivor of First Contact's sphere that one could easily imagine assimilating the 22nd century. Add Brian Tyler's unsettling score for the episode, and Regeneration serves as a fantastic prequel and worthy sequel to some of the darkest moments in Star Trek history. Number 1. In a Mirror, Darkly. And then Star Trek Enterprise did it again! In a Mirror Darkly was an ingenious idea that could have easily floundered in the execution. It is a double sequel. The opening moments show what a sequel to First Contact would look like in the Mirror universe, while it then becomes a sequel to the original series episode, The Tholian Web. This two-parter is fun on every level. The actors get to play those dastardly versions of themselves, while there are secrets for the future revealed on certain computer consoles. One can easily imagine the writer's room exploding with joy when they stumbled on the idea of using the ill-fated USS Defiant, the OG, as their base of operations. Bringing Matt Jeffrey's original Constitution class design into the 21st century was a stroke of nostalgic joy for all those who saw this without it being spoiled. Clearly, the actors are having the time of their lives cosplaying in original gear. In Enterprise fashion, it's also a prequel, though to the Mirror Universe arc in general. Every frame of the episode is set in that universe, with mirror versions of the characters, making it unique in Star Trek history. It was a sign of how strong the show had become, making its placement as one of the last stories in the final season a bittersweet event.
Hi, I'm Tom Larkin. Last time I told you about my GTN blog. Don't tell Starfleet. Thanks, Squarespace.
Squarespace is the all-in-one website platform designed to help entrepreneurs stand out online.
Squarespace allows me to link my social and multimedia accounts in just a few clicks. So you can see everything that GTN has to report, including things Starfleet doesn't want you to know. Squarespace uses Daystrom-approved design intelligence AI technology. Take control and build a beautiful, personalized website catered to your needs. SEO doodads, so you show up to more civilizations more often, but beware, Section 31 is a thing. Go to squarespace.com/TrekCulture, where you will get a free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. And remember, don't tell Starfleet.
That's everything for our list today, folks. Thank you so much. And if you would like a sequel to this list, you let us know in the comments below. I have been Sean for TrekCulture. You can follow me at Sean Ferrick on the various socials, and make sure that you're following at TrekCulture as well. You're awesome. You're wonderful. Live long and prosper. Be kind to yourself because you deserve it. Thank you so much.